Fungi. We think of mushrooms, but it's a lot more than just mushrooms. They're all saprobes, though. That means they absorb nutrients. Or they're parasites, meaning they feed on something alive. You may have had a fungus feeding on you at some point in your life. Maybe you didn't even know it. Morphology is the shape, and there are yeasts, so that's kind of morphology. And they're just cells that divide asexually by budding. Think of baker's yeast for making bread or brewing alcohol. Hyphae, that's the shape of many types of fungus. They're thread-like cells, really, and when there's a clump of them, we call it mycelium. So mycelium equals lots of hyphae, kind of like spaghetti, but of course microscopic. The hyphae is going to asexually divide in two different ways. One is these Sporangio-spores. They're going to form a sac-like head. And if you take a close look at bread mold, this is what it looks like. Those little black heads are loaded with spores, thousands of them. So if you see a blackened area on a piece of bread, you're looking at several thousand spores. Conidia form when spores pinch off from the hyphae. And so it's kind of weird. It's like if your fingertips budded off and then floated away, and then that little fingertip grew into another one of you. That's what a Conidia would be. And penicillium forms these Conidia. Right here, these Conidia. Fungal groups, there are so many types of fungi, it's amazing. Mycota, these are the water molds. Everybody has seen Mycota because they are going to grow on our lettuce and all of our stuff in the refrigerator, the crisper. The slimy part of a ear of corn, that's a water mold. Some history here. Water molds caused the Late Blight, also known as the Potato Famine. Destroyed tomatoes and potatoes in Ireland. Nearly 1 million people in Ireland either died or emigrated away during different blights in the 1800s. So this fungus affected demographics, world history. Zygomycota is a second group, and these guys are, well, bread mold's a good example. They have a Gametangia. Take a look at the Gametangia. That's a sexual, down at the diagram, kind of, yeah, A. Those are hyphae. I've talked about hyphae, but they're sexual hyphae. And then they join and they form this Zygosporangium here. It's a big, you can see, yeah, that's what it looks like in real life to the right. And then from this, a little baby is going to grow and develop into another stalk. So this is sexual reproduction. And that's why some fungicides, the chemicals that kill fungus, don't always work because these guys are always resorting their DNA. There's always new breeds of bread mold out there. Okay, mycosis is a fungal infection, and that occurs anytime spores infect living tissue. So we don't call bread mold of mycosis because the bread's really not alive. But bread mold, which is the genus Rhizopus, can cause a chronic pneumonia. In anyone who's got a lowered immunity, or sometimes children, the elderly, if they inhale these spores, then the spores will start to develop in the lung tissue. And antibiotics don't work because, of course, they're not bacteria. So we have to collect a sputum sample and have that sent to the lab, and then look for the spores of Gametangia there. Ascomycota, this is a third group. Okay, so these are called the sac fungus because the spores form in a sac. It's hard to give you real common examples every day, but Conidia, I talked about those little pinching off to the right. Some will join with a green algae to form a lichen. So it's kind of cool. There's a fungus and like an algae. And so here we have it. You may have seen these on rocks or fence posts, graveyard stones. It's an example of symbiosis because the lichen provides the protective structure, And the algae provides the food because algae is photosynthetic, so it produces glucose. The old story is Alvin, algae, and Freddy Fungus. Well, Freddy Fungus was lonely. His cupboards were bare, but he had a house, and Alvin Algae moved in. Wait, I don't know if that sounds right. Anyway, they took a lichen to each other, and lichens absorb some toxins in the air. And in areas, some cities, you don't find lichens because they die, especially if there's airborne metals. So good indicators of air quality, lichens. Zygomycota, a fourth group. These are the club fungus. It's not like a society or something. It's the club-shaped structure along the gills. So these are the mushrooms. Some mycoses that are worth noting. The death angel, Amanita. It is a dangerous one because the toxin is not excreted. It circulates in the body until the liver is destroyed. And this is out there, let me tell you. Anytime you suspect poisoning from a mushroom, you want to collect the entire specimen, even the underground parts, because Amanita has a basal sac, and the spores are white, and that annulus. Sometimes, yeah, usually there's an annulus there you can see. Psilocybe mexicana produces a neurotoxin. It interferes with neural impulses to the brain. It originally used as vision quests by some tribes in the Americas, more in the South. The problem with psilocybe is that there are many mushrooms that look like psilocybe, and people call them magic mushrooms. Other people will soak lawn mushrooms in like ammonium and dry them out, and then people get a buzz. But it's kind of a buzz of brain cells dying. Not a good. So just say no if anyone hands you something like this. Deuteromycota. We call these guys deutero because we don't know enough about them. We haven't even seen their sexual cycle. Stachybotrys is a bad one. This is the black mold. Many people are sickened by these airborne spores. It's kind of a recent discovery that this black mold, especially in old heating vents and behind refrigerators and different places in old moldy houses, can cause really chronic respiratory illnesses. There's some evidence it may even contribute to cancer. So molds are not just like something gross. They can be truly dangerous. Candida. Most people have had candida. Maybe not maybe when they're babies, of course. Diaper rash, oral thrush. But candida often occurs when there's a lower immune system, excess moisture, like if you're ever in the tropics and you develop a jock itch, I guess we call it, that's candida. Or sometimes if a woman is taking a type of oral birth control, or perhaps doing something that changes the pH in the vagina, then she'll develop a yeast infection. Penicillium, world famous for the antibiotic penicillin. It's still used today, although we have derivatives now that came from the ancestor of this wonderful fungus. So you can see that fungus is gross, it's dangerous, but it's also amazing, made of those little hyphae and those Conidia. All right, thanks for listening.